Hello everyone, today's video is all about pension choices. So what are the choices available to you when you come to take your pension? So today we're talking specifically about defined contribution pensions. So pensions where you put money in and it's invested on the stock market and you hope for the best. It's all about investment returns over many decades, and that will determine how big the pot is at the point of which you want to access the pension, as opposed to defined benefits, or what we call final salary schemes, where you are guaranteed a fixed amount in retirement and the investment risk is all with the employer. So we're not going to talk about defined benefits, it's all about defined contribution schemes. So also the options that are available to you, you can actually apply a separate option to each pension pot that you have. So many people have several pension pots. They reckon on average the average UK worker has about 7 pension pots by the time they get to retirement. So you don't have to have the same strategy in terms of what to do with your pension for each of your respective pots. You could have different strategies. Now, you may also think that you might want to combine all your pension pots. So you could take those 7, just combine them into one pension before you've started accessing it to hope to get better pension returns. So again, financial advisors give advice on things like that, but they are the options available. You can keep your several separate pots, do different things with them when you want to access them, or you can combine them all before you access them and have everything in one place. Right, so the 3 choices are this. So you get to a certain age and you want to access the pension pot. Now, currently the rules are that you have to be at least 55 to do any of these things. That is rising to 57 in 2028. So assuming we've got someone now, let's say they're 60 years of age, and they say, right, I've got a pension pot or pension pots, what can I do? What are the choices? So choices number 1, tax-free cash plus buy an annuity. So basically, you take a percentage of the fund as cash, you draw it out straight away, and that is tax-free, and the balance of the pot you buy an annuity. Number 2, tax-free cash and drawdown. So tax-free cash and drawdown, again, whatever the pot is worth, you get 25% out as a lump sum, tax-free, and then the rest you keep invested. You keep it invested on the stock market or the bond market or wherever it is, but the point is you're not buying an annuity with a balance, you are keeping it invested to then take income from in the future. Then the 3rd choice is what we call pension lump sums. So they're your 3 options. You can either do one of those or a combination depending on the number of pots that you have. So what exactly does each one mean? Well, first one, the tax-free lump sum. So generally it's 25% of the pot. So let's say your pension pot at the point of wanting to get your hands on it is 400 grand. You get the first £100,000 out, tax-free. Terrific. Okay. So then what about the remaining £300,000 that's in the pot? What do you do with that? Well, there are 2 income options for that 300,000. Annuity or flexi access drawdown. So what is an annuity? Well, an annuity is basically where you go to an insurance company and you say, here's my £300,000. I would like to exchange that for a regular income for the rest of my life. Guaranteed income. This is why you do it, because it's guaranteed income. So there's no uncertainty. You're going to swap your 300 grand of the pot that's left in your pension fund for a guaranteed income for the rest of your life. And probably about 300 grand, that would be maybe between 10 and 15 grand a year. It's not that much. You've got to save a lot to get a decent income, but nevertheless, that's at least the same again on top of the state pension. So state pension just shy of 10 grand. On that example, 300 grand in the pot, you're going to get an annuity in the teens. So more than double what you've started out with. So annuity. Now, annuities, there are different types of annuities. A regular annuity is where you say to the insurance company, I'm just going to give you this pot, there's 300 grand in this example, give me this 15 grand a year for the rest of my life until I die. There's that option, that's the regular annuity. Then there's another type of annuity which is linked to inflation. Now, of course, inflation, unfortunately, is back hitting the headlines now for the first time in many decades. So an annuity linked to inflation will basically increase every year. So in my example, it won't just be the straight 15 grand a year for the next 20 years until you die or whatever it is. Hopefully it's more than 20 years, but it'll be adjusted for inflation and you'll get more depending on the rate of inflation, which is good. But they tend to be more expensive than the regular ones. So maybe you'll get a lower starting figure. So you got to shop around for these deals. The next type of annuity is some sort of protection for surviving spouse. So what normally happens on a regular annuity, let's say you've got a husband and wife and they've both got their own annuities. The first one to go, that's it. The income stops. The income stops. This is why the annuities, the insurance companies pay thousands of pounds a year to the actuaries, they're so-called, the probability geeks who work out the statistically how long you're going to live for. They try and bet which way it's going to go, and hopefully they're going to be quids in and you're not. That's the nature of the annuity business. So, as soon as you die, the annuity stops paying out. That's it. It's gone. However, again, there are variants of this where there will be some protection for the surviving spouse. In other words, once you've gone, there may be a continuation of income or a lump sum or whatever from your annuity product to your surviving spouse. So again, that would probably result in a lower initial amount, but you've got the protection of what happens if something happens to you, that your spouse is going to get looked after, and in addition to their own annuity, when they are still surviving, they're going to get a bit from yours after you pop your clogs. Now, all these variants on annuities you've got to shop around for, and the point is you've got to choose at the point that you crystallize the pension. So at the point where you've said, right, I've had my 100 grand tax free, I've got my 300 grand left, what do I do with it? Right, that's when you shop around and do all these things, because once you've signed up for it, most of the time you cannot change it. So you can't, and remember, this is a contract that lasts for the rest of your life. So if you're 55, 57, trying to access one of these, hopefully you're going to live for another 30 years, you've got to get the best deal and say, well, do I want something that grows with inflation, or do I want something that gives a little extra to my wife when I die? But once you've got to choose that at that age, you can't just say 10 years down the line, oh, can I just vary the product or have something else, like when you change a mortgage or remortgages. Not like that. On annuities, you've got to make that decision right at the start, and that decision will stick with you for the rest of your life and beyond if you're getting the spouse protection. So that is annuity. So the next one is drawdown. So flexible drawdown. Now, for many years, annuities were pretty much the only choice. And in 2015, we had this thing called pensions freedom. A lot was made of it in the press. And what it did in the pensions freedom, it introduced these other options. It said, you don't just have to buy an annuity. You can actually now do this other option, which is take the lump sum, 25%, and then invest the remaining. So in my example, you've taken your 100 grand, you said we're going to leave 300 grand on the stock market and hope for the best. And we'll pull a regular income from there. So when you do take the regular income from there, like annuity income, it's taxed at your marginal rate. So if you are a basic rate taxpayer, 20%. If you are a higher rate taxpayer, 40%. And that's how the income elements of your pension, i.e. the annuity income and the income from the flexi drawdown, are taxed. But now there is a third option, and the third option is called lump sums or ad hoc lump sums, where you just pull out amounts from the pension pot as and when you like. So there's no initial upfront 25% tax-free and invest the balance. With this, you're saying, assuming on day one, you've got 400 grand in the pot, and you get to 60 and you say, oh, I could just do with 50 grand out of there because I can. So I'll have 50 grand, and if you treat it as a pension lump sum, so what you say is that of that 50 grand, 25% tax-free, so that's 12,500, and 37,500 is taxable. And you do that for every time you pull money out of the pension pot. So you're leaving it invested like you are in the flexi drawdown, but technically every time you pull money out, a slice of it is tax-free and a slice is taxable. 25% of everything you pull out is tax-free, and 75% of everything you pull out is taxable. So that's called the pensions lump sum. Now, they are the options that are available to you when you start to take your pension. Now, crucially, what I would advise on is what I'm about to tell you on the MPAA. Now, this is called the Money Purchase Annual Allowance. Money Purchase Annual Allowance. And basically what it says is this. it says that once you start to access your pension, you are then restricted going forward into how much you could further contribute to your pension pot and get tax relief. So let's make that clear. Tax relief on pension contributions whilst you're building your pension pot are very valuable, whether it be personal contributions or contributions from your limited company, if you're an owner, manager, owner, direct shareholder of an SME business. And I've done many videos on this. Pensions tax planning is great for saving both corporation tax and income tax. However, once you start taking your pension, your capacity to then put further amounts in is reduced significantly. So just to recap on the rules for whilst you are accumulating your pension pot, paying into it £40,000 a year. And if you haven't used your previous 3 years, assuming you've got a pension at some point in the past, in theory, you could quadruple up. So that you could, in a particular year, if you've been lax with your pension contributions, put in 160 grand into your pension pot. That's assuming your business is flush with cash. And that would save 35 grand of corporation tax. All legit, that's how the rules work. But the point is, all of a sudden, let's say you've done that, and then every year you do 40,000. So you've caught up with your allowances, and then you do 40,000, 40,000. But as soon as you start taking a pension, because you said, oh, you know what, I quite might want to do an extension or buy a speedboat. No intention of retiring. This is crucial. You're still working. You just say, there's a few quid over there in one of these pension pots. I want to access it. I want to start just to take it because I could do the money. I could do with the money for a certain purpose. But you've got no desire to cease working yet. You've still got your business, your SME, your entrepreneur, your successful business still going. And for years you've been getting generous tax relief by contributing into your pension, and you're cashing in on a little bit of the pot. But the point is that then means going forward, that 40,000 a year no longer applies, and it drops right down. It drops down to £4,000 a year. That's what the MPAA limit means. So just because, let's say you've got a pension pot of, in this example, 400 grand, and you've got no intention of accessing most of it for another 5 or 10 years, you say, look, I'll just have to take 50 grand because I want to extend my villa in Porto Benus or wherever it is. But the point is that then negates the ability to put in a great big contribution going forward from your business to save corporation tax relief, or indeed income tax relief. If you've got an income tax issue, you can only put £4,000 in. Well, you can put more in, but you're going to only get tax relief on the 4,000 instead of 40,000. So the tax relief capabilities drop significantly once you start taking the pot. So the advice is, do you really need to get your hands on the money? But like I said, speak to a financial advisor about it. But also bear in mind, right at the start of the video, several pension pots. So yes, you might have chosen to amalgamate everything because it's good advice to put 7 pots into one. You might have done that and then hope to get another 20 years growth, saving on the costs of having 7 or 8 pension pots, compounded your growth that way. But then that could come around and bite you if you start to take a little bit out for whatever reason, and you still intend to make contributions to save tax. Whereas if you've got multiple pots still, then yes, start to take something from one of them, but you still have the others. So you've got to just be careful about the point of taking money from the pension whilst you still intend to contribute going forward as well. And because it's such a valuable tax relief to lose, to be able to go from 40 grand a year to 4 grand. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Final point I want to make here is on the rules surrounding what they call small pots. Not small pox, small pots. Small pots are pension pots with a value of £10,000 or less. Now, the rules are that if you've got any of these small pots, you can take it out as a lump sum, and it will be taxed 25% tax-free, 75% taxable, but it doesn't restrict for the MPAA, the money purchase annual allowance doesn't kick in if you take your money out from a small pot. So that is probably the strategy then. If you would need to access a few quid for whatever reason, way before you intend to retire, because it's there in your pension fund and you can do, have a look, search out to see if you've got any of these small pots. like I said, a lot of people have 7 or 8 pots, they reckon. So chances are you may have some small pots. And if you want to get some money, that's where you pull it out from. Not your main one where you're going to lose your right to future tax relief. Okay? So, oh, just one more point on the MPAA. It doesn't apply to annuity income. So when you start taking income from your annuity, that restriction doesn't apply, that it drops from 40,000 to 4,000. It only applies for the drawdown. So just an overview there on what to do when you start to take your pension, because there are many choices, particularly since, like I said, Pensions Freedom Day in 2015, where they've fundamentally overhauled the rules to basically make it a lot easier for people to get their hands on their pension. No longer were you restricted to basically just having to get an annuity and the 25% tax-free lump sum. So do speak to a financial advisor about this, because there are so many traps and pitfalls. I've highlighted just a few here, so many options, things you can do. But yeah, if you like this video, please do subscribe right about there, and I'll see you soon.